brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. Pardon me, your best place for predictions and opinion. And I very nearly started without my hat on. Jeez, that would have been a disaster. But hey, we are all good now. The hat is on. Everything is safe. I just need to bring up the link so I can see any comments in the chat room. So hello and thank you. If you have joined us live, do let me know in the chat room. Actually, where you're joining from, which team you support, and give you a shout out during the show. So we kick off on Friday nights with the Highlanders versus the Hurricanes. I'll be doing live post-match reaction to this game. This is a hi Christopher, who's just joined in the chat. This is it has the potential to be a cracking game, but the Highlanders are in a bit of trouble with injuries, aren't they? Let's be honest. No Naholo, no Aaron Smith for a start. Now they're so we have Ben Smith, Matt Fadders back on the wing again. I like Matt Fadders as a player a lot. I got to interview him. I got to talk to him a couple of times in interviews, which was really nice. But he's not really a wing, is he? Buckman, Walden in the centres, Lee on the other wing, Banks, Hamilton. So it's really not Hamilton. Decent player, but he's not Aaron Smith. Let's be honest. Whitelock, Lenchis, Frizzell, Franklin, Dixon, Lomax, Coleman, and Johnson. Herpo coming off the bench again, which decent bench here. We've got players like Ash Dixon, Leonard Brown, Elliot Dixon on the bench. So Joshuani, who I personally think should be getting more game time ahead of Fadders. But anyway, sorry, ahead of Banks, not Fadders. Rob Thompson on there. So good bench, but you've got to say missing some of that star power that this side could have. And when you put that up against a Hurricanes side who've got a Tia fullback, Houston, Geordie Barrett in 13. Now, that's Geordie's third different jersey in 3 games, I think it is. So he's getting shifted around to have to cover for injuries. Lamapi, Ben Lam, Bowden Barrett, TJ Perenara, Princip at 8, Ardy Surveyor, Fafita, Ulysses, Leo Pepe has come in to the side, giving Liam Mitchell a bit of rest. He goes onto the bench. Blackwell, Ben May, Riccatelli, and Armstrong in the forwards there. I mean, with players like Amua, Tumunga Allen to come off the bench, not a bad Chris Eve as well, not a bad pack to come off the bench. But they are playing a 6-2 bench with just Finley Christie and Matt Proctor as backs replacements on the bench. So they're going to have to hope they don't get any injuries in the backs, because that could be a bit of a problem for them. So to me, the Highlanders really are struggling at the moment. They do struggle when they're missing those key All Blacks, and hence I've gone with the Hurricanes in this one. The Highlanders, decent pack, but not the kind of pack that I expect to dominate the Hurricanes in the same way that, say, the Crusaders would do. And that's, as we know, that's when the Hurricanes can be put on the back foot and can be put into a bit of trouble. Really going to have to, the Highlanders, their defence is going to have to be absolutely on song to try and get as much pressure onto this Canes side as possible. But you've got to say that's a decent Canes lineup. Fine, they've got some injuries in the backs, which means that Geordie's having to bounce around. But still, you go through that back line. And Chase Tia has been playing very well, and all the rest. Actually, I'm not sure if Houston has, but obviously Ben Lam, All Blacks Sevens player. All the rest All Blacks. It's a strong side. We then head over the ditch for Reds versus Stormers. Reds obviously having that disappointing result against the Rebels last time out, and not really getting themselves those results. The pretty much a similar size, sort of Hamish Stewart on the and Bryce Hegarty to run things from 15 and 10. A lot of it's going to come down to Karevi in that back line, isn't it? And then that pack is going to have to front up against this Stormers pack, and that could be a real good matchup there, going at each other. Across to the Stormers, Willemse at 15, which with and then with Duplessis at 10, gives you plenty of options and playmaking options there for them. So will they go wide like they did against the Blues, or will they go for more of the line-out maul, an up-front option like they did against the Hurricanes? Against the Reds, you'd have to think they'd go wide, because that's where the Reds are the weaker side. So I'm expecting the Stormers to try that wide thing again, but I just don't think they've really got that down pat. Missing players. Again, it's got Ebenezer Beth, for example, is back out again. They're missing some key players, and I just think they're going to find that they just lack the handling skills to execute that wide game plan that they're going to try and play against the Reds, like they did against the Blues, and it's just not going to come off, is my prediction there. We then have another rare Friday night South African game, Lions hosting the Sharks. Now, the Lions, yeah, sure, they're not as strong as they have been in the past, but they're still having a decent time of it. We would play with the class of Malcolm Marks in there. You've got to say that they've got some class players in there. Even if they have got a bunch of injuries and are missing quite a few sort of names. But they've still got Elson Yanchis to run things. Coetzee to come in from fullback. Interesting to see Dante moved into 13 into the centres rather than on the wings. So it's going to see how he does in that role. At altitude again, you've got to say that you'd expect the Lions up over the Sharks. The Sharks haven't beaten a South African side this season. They've beaten all the non-South African sides they've played, but they've not beaten a South African one. And part of that's got to come down to there is definitely some disharmony at the Sharks at the moment. Robert Dupree has already signed for the Sharks, but for the Sale Sharks next season, Cohen Bosch is talking about heading to the Stormers, I think it is, as well. So you've got you think with Dupree moving on, that would be Cohen Bosch's prime opportunities to take that 10 jersey and make it his, but clearly he doesn't see it. See that as being the future for him. So it does look like there is some off-field issues happening there with the Sharks at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on. So yeah, I think the Lions, the more settled side, harmonious off the pitch than on the pitch. Heading into Saturday, we have the Crusaders versus the Brumbies in an early game down in Christchurch. Now it's the first one since the Christchurch attack, and so you've got to say that this is going to be a very emotional game for the Crusaders, and they've got Moody, Taylor, Franks back in that front row. So I think any scrummaging issues will go straight out the window. When they got Moody and Franks around, it all sorts itself out. When they're missing, they can struggle a bit at scrum time. Scott Barrett, Quinton Strange, Blackadder, Todd Reed is a very strong pack. Douglas getting a rest this weekend, and Sam Whitelock going to come off the bench. Wow, that kind of player coming off the bench, that is pretty special. Drummond, Mwanga, Crotty, Bateman, so Goodhue getting rested this weekend on the wings. Sevu Reese on the left wing, Will Jordan on the right, and David Abili at fullback. Now, yes, sure, Will Jordan is a fullback rather than a winger. So we've just got to keep an eye out and see how he goes. On the bench, one interesting name there, Lester Fayanga and Nuku, who's a 19-year-old who plays for Tasman. I believe he's only got two caps for Tasman so far to his name. So, could one of these players going to end up with more Super Rugby caps than might have 10 caps if he's not careful. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. I'll be honest, I don't know much about him. To be honest, say a 19-year-old with only 2 caps and might have 10 cup level from the South Island. We'll see how he goes. But that's definitely someone to look out for. You may be seeing the future in him. We're definitely seeing the future in Will Jordan, but we already knew that coming into this season. Over to the Brumbies, this is more a matter of the players they haven't got than they have got, to be honest. Sio, Fainga, Arnold all rested for World Cup reasons. Pocock missing, but Pocock out injured, Valentine out injured as well, plus a few more. So a whole bunch of players missing there, at least 5 choice players, all from the pack missing. And if you're going to go up against the Crusaders and you've got 5 first choice players from your pack missing, that is a real... you're really asking for trouble there. So yeah, they do have Slipper and Alan Alatoa as props, so a decent pair of props, to be fair. Darcy Swain, I think, gets his first start. Got Pete Samuel on the wing. Oh, it's on the wing? No, in the 6th jersey. So obviously returning to Christchurch, where he played for the Crusaders, so I'll be interested to see how he goes there. Christian Leofano is really going to have to pull the strings, captaining the side. Good to see Tony Pulu back after getting a fractured cheekbone in the opening round, so it's good to see him back in action. They're going to need players like Kieran Durrani and Banks really to fire, you'd think, to cause the Crusaders any problems whatsoever. So yeah, comfortable try bonus point win for the Crusaders, I expect, in that one. Saturday night, I've got a couple of friends trying to get me free tickets for the Blues, so we'll see if I can get up there for that game, or whether I'll be watching that one from home up in Auckland, we'll see. But yeah, just obviously with I've gone blank with red card last week. I've gone blank with the player's name, but he's replaced by Caleb Clark on the wing. Interesting enough, Caleb Clark was listed as injured last week, but then then I saw him running around playing in the not the reserves game, but the development game the day before. So interesting that. But yeah, Caleb Clark is I think played pretty much the whole game there. So he's definitely, I think he's absolutely fine. So he comes in. He's the only change in the backs from the starting up last time. In the forwards, Goodhue comes back from injury into the locks, which will help there. And Carl Tungafasi gets a rest, so we've still got players like Offa Tungafasi, Big Carl's is being rested. Offa Tungafasi's there. Dalton Papali'i coming on. Harry Plummer, Michael Collins also available from the bench. So the name missing there that I've not mentioned, Sonny Bill Williams. He's out with a knee injury, unfortunately. So unfortunately to see him get injured again. But relatively settled side for the Blues, and obviously coming off the back of 3 wins, not surprising that that's the way they've gone. Over to the Waratahs, interesting names that sort of jump out at me. Ned Hannigan in the 4 jersey. I like Ned Hannigan in the 6 jersey, not in the 4 jersey. That leaves that pack a bit light in the engine room. So yes, there's definitely, I would say, an opportunity there for the Blues to go after that. No Michael Hooper in this side either, as well. So definitely an opportunity there with him missing. Phipps, Foley, Carmichael Hunt, Adam Ashley Cooper. You've got Newsom, Cam Clark on the wings, and Israel Flower at fullback. Yep, Curtly Beale coming off the bench. Interestingly enough, I mean, that is a decent back line. The problem is that front, is that pack going to get them any ball, or at least good ball? We'll have to wait and see. Personally, I can't see it happening, and I'm back in the Blues for the 4th one on the trot, which is the first time I've done that in absolutely ages. I think I heard on the radio that they will be looking at winning as many games this season as last season if they achieve that. If I'm at home, I'll do post-match reactions to that game. If not, then obviously if I'm at the game, I probably won't, but I'll be on Periscope if I'm at the game. Oh, other little fact off the radio I heard was that the Highlanders have not lost in Dunedin for 2 seasons now. The only home game they've lost was to the Crusaders in Fiji. So, interesting up against Hurricanes this weekend, but I think they will get a loss. So, it'll be it could be their first loss in over 2 years there. Back to the games then. Rebels versus the Sunwolves. The Rebels, you've got to say, a side that did very well to come back from South Africa, beat the Reds, are big favourites for this one. Decent pack. Adam Coleman and Nazarani, players doing well. Obviously, Eugenia Cooper combination with Meeks and English in the centres, Maddox, Corabetti on the wings, and Hodge at fullback. They've been delivering the goods. There's no reason to why they wouldn't again this weekend. Ross Hale-Petty comes onto the subs bench to potentially get a start, get some game time, and Ruru also on there as well. So the and I need to bring up the Sunwolves side. Jermaine Ainsley was the only change, actually, that's right. Selected at tight head prop, replacing Sam Taliakia, who gets rested for this game. Looking at the Sunwolves side, obviously the first name you look for, because he just delivers so many points, is Hayden Parker playing? And the answer is yes. So they went with a chance. There we go. Perhaps a bit harsh. Dan Pryor will be. Is it Dan? I'm not sure if it's D. Pryor. Anyway, Pryor will be captaining again from the Lucies. I say Parker's in there. You got Van der Heever on the wing, who's been obviously very good, and we're also starting to see some of the Japanese players come back into the side as well. So you got Yamanaka on the fullback, for example, there. So with the Sunwolves upsetting the Waratahs last weekend, there's going to be no complacency from the Rebels, and you've got to say that's what the Sunwolves really need, is a bit of complacency, and then they'll cause upsets, but they're not going to get regular wins. So for me, Rebels will win that one. Finally, we head over to South Africa for the final game, which is the Bulls versus the Jaguares. The Bulls still naming their teams early in the week. Thank you very much for that. That's nice. So we've got Russo, Coates and Steeling on the wings, Sage and Aldenal in the centres, Libok and Papier. So Libok coming on to start at 10. So Pocock, what am I talking about? Pollard, sorry. Not there. Vermeulen, Kristen, Steenkamp are the Lucies, Steinman, Lindenberg in the engine room, and Ayaki, Els and Ngobi Oboka on the front row. You'd think at home, at altitude, with the Jaguares travelling, I'm not seeing the Jaguares side yet, that you've got to be backing the Bulls to win this one. Obviously, the Jaguares will be playing with their normal elan, and it's going to require the Bulls to contain those exciting backs that the Jaguares have. The Bulls have had a tendency to either win big or lose big, so you can expect perhaps quite a big points difference in this one. If you're thinking about your Super Brew picks, I say I'm backing the Bulls to win that one. So there you go. That's the games that we have lined up for this weekend, and I say I'll be live straight after the Friday night 7:30 New Zealand game, and I'll be at least providing some coverage around the Blues one as well. Either I'll be at the game periscoping, or I'll be at home doing a YouTube live straight after the game. So join me for both of those. Enjoy whatever you're watching this weekend, and see you next week.